Financial intermediation is the process that facilitates the flow of funds from entities who have excess funds to entities who need it. Financial intermediaries in most countries include banks, savings and loan institutions as they are known in the United States, non-banking finance companies as they are known in several other countries, pension funds, and so on and so forth. Some of these financial intermediaries are regulated entities and some are non-regulated entities as mandated by the monetary authority of each country. The objective of financial intermediation is to intermediate funds from savers and investors to borrowers in the most risk-free manner. The operating phrase is in the most risk-free manner. For example, when you put your money in a bank, the risk of managing those funds is vested almost entirely with the bank. On the other hand, if you invest your money in the financial markets, such as the equity market or the corporate bond market, the risk is borne entirely by you, the investor. In summary, financial intermediaries have a fiduciary responsibility to intermediate funds in the most risk-free manner. Financial intermediaries perform 6 basic functions. First, denomination intermediation, where small amounts of savings from individuals are pulled together to give loans of varying size, large, medium, and small. 2. Default risk intermediation, which is the willingness to give loans to risky borrowers without hurting the returns to the savers. 3. Maturity intermediation, which is the ability to create loans whose maturities do not match with the corresponding liabilities. Remember, in most countries in the world, the liability support for banks comes from, for instance, checking accounts, savings accounts, certificate of deposits, fixed deposits, and so on, all of which have a short maturity profile when compared to loans and investments, which are usually 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and in some cases even 20 years in duration. Next, liquidity intermediation really is a spin-off from maturity intermediation. Claims from savers, which are shorter term, are highly liquid, while loans to borrowers, which are more longer term, are relatively less liquid. By that I mean, if you put your money in a certificate of deposit or a fixed deposit in a bank, when you need the money, you can turn it into cash. On the other hand, if you take a loan from that same bank, it is highly unlikely that the bank would ask you to pre-close the loan. Almost always, the decision to pre-close the loan is with the borrower, much less often with the bank, who is the lender. That indeed is the manifestation of liquidity intermediation. Information intermediation. This is perhaps the most important component of financial intermediation. It refers to the ability of financial intermediaries to gather and process information from the financial marketplace far more effectively than individual savers. For example, let us say you have $250,000, you could lend that to a prospective borrower yourself. But you would hesitate to do that and rather leave your money with a financial intermediary like a bank, since these entities have a significantly superior ability to source and analyze information about borrowers and hence give loans that are as risk-free as possible. This penchant for information by banks and all participants in the financial system to try and eliminate what we call information asymmetry and thereby minimize the risk of lending and investment decisions going awry is known in the world of finance as information intermediation. And finally, currency intermediation is the ability to lend cross-currency. For instance, take deposits from customers in one currency and lend to borrowers or invest in bonds in another currency. What you might ask are the advantages of financial intermediation. Economies of scale. Any financial intermediary has several thousand savers and several hundred borrowers. Hence, they can mix and match the tenor or terms to maturity of the deposits lying with them with the tenor of the loans they offer or the bonds they invest in. We call that economies of scale. Furthermore, financial intermediaries deploy a very high level of technology, have a high level of legal and documentation expertise, apart from the ability to rigorously evaluate and assess the associated risks before lending or investing. Net-net, financial intermediaries know how to minimize risks in lending and investing, as well as mitigate the associated financial risks to the best extent possible. Financial intermediation, interestingly, is fraught with the problem of information asymmetry, adverse selection, and moral hazard, expounded very lucidly by Professor George Akerlof in his seminal research paper titled Market for Lemons. I have dealt with that in great detail in another session.